Hi, this is Charlie. I am working on the next signature for my Land of the Rising Sun album that I'm making for Scrap and Create. And I'm just getting back from a small vacation, so if I seem a little bit out of sorts, it will be because of that. So hang with me while I get back into this and get us moving forward. So let's get to the base page and we're going to get some measurements going here. This is the piece I selected. On the reverse side, actually I got this upside down. On the reverse side is this lovely piece, but this is a piece I want to play with. So this is measuring in at 7 1/4 across, and it is 7 3/8 tall. And because I turned that upside down, I need to ink this real quick. There we go. All right, so we're going to start with a pocket on the bottom. And the pocket does measure 2 inches by the width, which is 7 1/4. Now, I am using a rather large die, but I'm cutting it down so that I just have the tops here. So if you're using a die or a punch or maybe even some ribbon, now would be a time to put it on. And I'm going to dig out a roll of 1/4 inch tape and get this on here. All right. So let's put this together. It was kind of nice going on a short mini vacation, but boy, I tell you, when you're coming back and you've got a project to get back into, the mind is kind of like a little bit sluggish. All right, let's get this back on here. And then I'm using the same paper, but the reverse side to create my piece down here across the bottom. And I'm going to go ahead and tape it on. And I'm just going to kind of slide this centered in there just a little bit. There we go. All right, so now let's go and play with these two flaps. So I'm taking some of the cards. Tape hanging on my ruler. So these cards, depending upon how good you are at trimming, mine came in at 3 3/4 by 5 3/4. So I'm making some upper flaps using them and some scrap. So you're going to want to have 2 flaps that are going to measure 4 3/8 by 5 7/8, and then you're going to score here at a 1/2 inch. And that would be the same, should be the same measurements for the other piece, if depending upon how you trimmed your card. So I'm at 4 3/8 again by 5 7/8. So I'm going to go ahead and remove my tape, and I'm going to center these above the flap. I'm going to come all the way to the top, and then I'm just going to glue it in, tape it, secure the tape down. And then I'm going to do the same for the opposite side. I'm just going to come right up here to the top and secure it down. Give a good burnish. So I'm using the reverse sides. These have a saying on one side, but I want this side so that it could be used for a photo. And I'm just gonna glue this in place. And then from my scraps, I pulled out this piece. I think it runs this way, but it's going to get covered with the photo, so to me, it doesn't matter which direction the symbols go. I just didn't want to cut into another scrap of paper, so I'm using these instead. So they'll just fit in here rather nicely. And then this is the one I'm using here for this one. Make sure I've got it going right side up. So I'll just get this set in here. And then we're going to turn this over and grab this matching piece. Again, these two came out of my scraps. Now, depending upon how you've been cutting, you may or may not have these. If you don't, just realize you're going to end up cutting into fresh paper pad. Okay, so there we go. Now, the next flap that we're going to work with is the big one. This will be the left side, and the measurements on this is coming in at, I'm turning it upside down, 6 7/8 by 8 3/8. So we are 6 7/8 across by 8 3/8, which is the height of the signature. So when I put this in here, I do want to come right up to the 1/2 inch score line. And I will get a little bit of pushback because of this piece we've already put down, so just keep that in mind. And what you're looking for when you open this back up is to make sure that you're not on the gusset and that you're not seeing any of your tape that you used to put that in there. Now I'm going to push back on the other score mark, and I'm going to kind of reinforce it. Now to continue with this panel, we're going to cut a piece that's going to measure 6 by 8 3/8. This piece is going to align here on this panel. Okay, so you're going to score it at 1/2, and you're going to score it at 5/8 of an inch. Now, if you don't want to put it there, you can always put it over here. It will fold into the gusset rather nicely, and you know what? I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and mount this on the inside track here and let the 1/4 inch gusset absorb the 1/2 inch gusset. So I'm going to put it right up to that score line. I want it right on there. All right, now I'm going to push back on the 5/8 score line, and then that will reinforce that score mark. Okay, now I want to move to the right side because we've got some magnets that I want to place in, and I want to do that before we start putting any additional paper down. So on this panel here, it's going to measure 8 7/8 by 8 3/8. There is a 1/2 inch score and a 3/4 inch score. So the same thing is going to apply. I'm going to want to bring this right up to this 1/2 inch score mark. I'm going to try to do it without turning the signature over. I'm going to come right up to that 1/2 inch score mark. Now, I'm already running into a problem. This is why because I can't see, there we go, the top. All right. Give it a good burnish. Turn this over. I'm going to burnish this 1/4 inch score mark line. And then the same thing, we've got another fold, so we'll put it again here. This is measuring at 6 inches by 8 3/8. There's a 1/2 inch score mark and there is a 5/8 score mark. So let's take the tape off. I am going to fold it on that 1/2 inch score line, and then I'm going to run it right up the 3/4 inch score mark. And then push back on the 5/8, give it a score so it encourages it. So you've got this will open this way, and then it will close up, and this 1/4 inch gusset is going to absorb the 5/8 of an inch gusset. Now let's go ahead and close. I want the right side flap on the top for magnet placement. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually place 2 here so that we're not putting a lot of expectation on one magnet. And I just had one fly off to the floor, but I'll have to get it later. Okay, so let me think about this. So I want, that should work. So I'm going to put it here. And I'm going to put one here. You just randomly place them, just not on the edge. And then we'll take the tape off. And when you close this, you want to make sure that your papers are aligned top and bottom, and that your gussets are standing nice and straight. And we give a little bit of a pull. They'll separate quite nicely. Now we can go in and we can start decorating some of this. So on this inside panel, this one, I have cut, this is from the 8x8, but because these signatures are taller than the 8x8s, I am using a 1/2 inch trim across the top and the bottom to finish them off. And it gives you a chance to use your scraps a little bit. And because I haven't looked at this for a while, I'm going to do a dry measurement, make sure I don't need to trim this at all. Once I get it in here, I think I'll be okay. So I'm going to go ahead and glue this in. just want to make sure I'm not getting outside of the gusset. Okay, we're going to turn it over, and this was the piece that I elected to use. I do believe this came out of a 12 by 12 because I had to cut two. And just be mindful of that gusset and that you're not going over the edge here. All right, so that took care of that flap. Now for the inside here, and you know, so that there was some continuity, I do believe this is what I did, is I also put some of this here and down here, so there was some continuity. So I'm just going to glue just a tad bit here. They're both 1/2 inch strips. Excuse my head, I apologize. Okay, so over here, I'm having to do the same thing. I've elected to use an 8 by 8 piece, and I am putting 1/2 inch borders on the end in order to help absorb some space. This is out of a 12 by 12 pack though. It's one of those shortly cut or made pieces. There are some tags underneath of this. There might even be alphabet underneath of it, depending upon what pad you're pulling it out of. All right, we will come back to the front in a minute. I want to deal with these pieces over here. So you can see what we have going here is we've got matching side panels. This panel and this panel. Again, they're cut from 8 by 8s, but they're a bit short, so I've added a 1/2 inch piece, again along the ends. Now you can make your pieces bigger than a 1/2 inch if you like that look. There's absolutely nothing saying that you can't. You might prefer a 1 inch border. But what's nice is it just kind of breaks up that pattern a little bit. And then the same thing here on the inside was the other half of that 12 by 12, and I've cut, once again, some 1/2 inch strips to go on the top and the bottom. To give it some matching patterns throughout. So here's my 1/2 inch. And then here's the other one. Okay, so now the inside of this, again, I've cut into this is a by 8 because I've had to fill in the pattern here. And it's going to fit in here like this, but I have to I'm going to do this in tape because of the magnets. And I'm just going to stick a little bit here in the center to help keep the paper down on the cardstock. So I'm going to be mindful again of that score line. Commit that. All right, now what I would like to do is go back to these internal pages, these pages. I had cut out 2 of the dresses, and I'm putting one here, and I'm going to put one over here on this page, and I'm going to secure across the top and a little bit down the shoulders because I want this to be a tuck for both of these. So this one will go here. And I'm gonna be easier if I do this with some glue, but I want to be careful because glue spreads. Okay, we're just gonna kind of put this here. And then if I grab one of the cards, you can see it, we've got a nice tuck, and it will hold quite a bit of the length of a larger tuck. And then I'm going to do the same here with this one. There we go. All right, so those 2 are done. Now let's move to the front. So the left side is going to go under. This is the piece I chose for the left side, and the right side will have this piece on it. Okay, so on the right side, you're going to cut this out, back it on some black cardstock, we're going to mount it up, and then we're going to put it right back in its place, and I'm using a little red jewel down here to add some accent. That's why this right side is on the top. So let's go ahead and let's put some tape on the left side. And just a smidgen here down the center. place this in here. Close this. Now I'm going to tape around the edge. And then I'm going to glue. I had a little bit of a cutting mistake there, so I have some tape in there to fix it. But then I'm going to glue around the cut so that it will stay against the cardstock. I don't want it popping up. Okay. Right, and I'm going to pick this tape off. And then set this in here, line it up, commit that glue. And then I'm gonna take the rest of the tape off. Now we'll give her a nice, good burnish. All right, now time to start pulling all the tape off, and then we're going to set that right back in there. Gives a little bit of elevated height to the signature. So if you will bear with me, I'm going to pull all the tape off. A little bit tedious. Probably what would be better than doing this, but I was out of it and I wasn't going to ruin it, was some leftover chipboard. Could have just framed in a couple of pieces, but I was out of it and I just did not want to cut into a fresh board to do this. Okay, so we're going to set this right back in place. Give everything a nice good burnish. Clean up my mess. All right, so there we have it. Now, you can certainly add something to these two panels. There are plenty of these smaller cards. So if you wanted, and I will probably come back and do that, is to maybe mount some on some black cardstock and come in here and add some tucks to these two pages. And then we have these two, and then we have these two flaps. Nice photos. Nice pocket. So let's go ahead and grab our, it's a light signature, so I'm going to use 1/2-inch tape. Now you will probably notice, maybe you will not experience it, but on these signatures where we've got the 1/4-inch score, that gusset wants to kind of lay down. We'll be able to fix that when we get inside of the album and put it in place, because when you remove this tape, you're going to make sure that that gusset's laying straight up and down so that it's not collapsing on you. Okay, let's grab it. And this is our signature number 2 for page 1. Remove this tape, and I like to look at it this way so I see 3 of the 4 sides. I'm taking this gusset and I'm lining it right up here with this edge because I don't want this gusset to exceed far into, it's gonna, oh shoot, almost messed up there. Well, I guess I want to show you this. I guess I'm gonna have to do it this way. So I have marked a 1/2-inch as my placement guide, so I'm staying off of this seam in the hinge. So as you can see, I've got maybe out of that 1/2-inch, I've got about 1/4 of an inch that's left over, and that's fine because that's where this gusset is going to roll into when you close up the book. Okay, let's close this up, and then I'm going to sneak in here and start pulling some tape. Now this, I'm going to pull this one back just a bit while I work this. I want that gusset to stay straight, and then I'm going to push down on it. Okay, now we're going to come over here and we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to remove this tape, and then I'm going to remove this long piece because this is the one that's going to control the gusset, and I'm going to make sure that it's laying flat, and then I'm going to pull this piece. Got some tape hanging out here on the end, and I'm going to just work it and roll it back up underneath there. There we go. Okay. We're done. And I don't think I missed any measurements. Yay! I'll see you on the next build.